Hi, okay. Um, hmm, am I live? Can you guys hear me? Ah, oh, okay. Um, I wonder whether you guys can hear me. Am I live? Hello, guys. Hi. Um, we are live. What's up, everyone? Welcome to this live stream. Now, I'm doing this because I got unlimited internet at home for the very first time, and I am so excited. I'm like a kid who has got a toy, and I'm going to be online frequently. I hope you get used to it. We're going to be learning quite a lot, building simple projects, hard projects, and all that stuff because I finally got unlimited internet at home. All right, so what the topic is for today is building simple web applications using Python only. Now, guys, please help me leave a like on this video. It's just something that I'm requesting that you do for me. It's Saturday night. We are supposed to go out and chill, but I've decided to come on live to have a chat, to build a simple project, and to enjoy. So, yeah, let's go ahead and do this. So, there's this tool that I've been using for work. It's called Reflex. So, you can head over to the reflex.dev website. So Reflex is a framework for building pure Python web apps, just like it brags right here. And it also gives us a way of hosting such web apps. But I want to just get this chart. I don't know how I can be able to get it. So I guess I'll have to pop it out like this. And then I'll put it right here. All right, guys, please leave a like on this video. All right, so Reflex is a framework, just like any other framework, but what it does is to help you build that web application without having to write any JavaScript. Hope you guys can now see me. So I've been using this framework that is called Reflex, and I'm honestly amazed by how it works. I mean, it uses quite a lot of Python technologies on the back end, and it uses those Python technologies to build the front end. So how it works is it helps build these full stack web applications using Python. But what this Python does is to go ahead and compile to a Next.js web application. So this is the website, reflex.dev, and we basically see how much we can do with Reflex. They have inbuilt components, but these are based off UI frameworks like Chakra and Radix. This may be the language that people who do the front end understand well. So I'm going to leave a chat. Please tell me where you're watching from, how you're doing, and we can get started. Hi, Michael or Olu. You forgive me for spelling your name wrong. Yeah, so okay, I guess I'll have to be the only one to like my video. So Reflex helps you to build full stack web applications, and these full stack web applications are front end and back end. So the back end is written in Fast API, just like we're going to see, and the front end is written in Python, but renders to Next.js application. So you can do most of the stuff you do with React using this framework, and it's super helpful. I mean, if you've ever thought about the possibility for you to build a full stack web application, but you do not have any prior knowledge of JavaScript or how front-end frameworks work, then this is something that you can check out. Not only for building small apps, it actually works for big apps, because I'm on a big project right now and I'm using it and I'm so excited, and it just works just like we're going to see in this video. Oh, Alexander, hi. Michael, sorry for for mispronouncing your name. I'm really sorry for that. I just hope we can have a chat. This is not something that I've actually planned. I just decided to come on, build this web app, but while having a chat with you guys. Yeah, so hi Michael, hi Alexander. I'm actually working for, I've been working for a company in Kenya. So hi Alexander. My friend Michael from Nigeria. Hi, I've also been working with Nigerians. So I've been all over Africa, but sitting home right here, which is kind of weird. Yeah. So let's go to Reflex. Reflex right now is if you go to GitHub and we search Reflex, so I'm just going to search for Reflex. I think I'll just type it in here so that we can easily search for it. So Reflex is a framework that was called PyCon, but now it's what it's called Reflex, and it has been around for some time. I just got to know about it in 2024, but I honestly love it, and I think it's going to become something big to help people build with Python. The reason that's why I'm talking a lot is because this wasn't planned, guys. Yeah, anyway, so this is the Reflex project, and when you go to the GitHub repo, this is the GitHub repo right here. So people are really taking building web apps with Python seriously. This thing has 16K stars on GitHub, and it's being used by very many people. In fact, these people brag of having 5,000 plus projects created per month and 3,700 Discord members. These people have a Discord group in which you can go ahead and talk about how to contribute, talk about the errors that you're facing, and you get to talk to the maintainers directly, which is something that is good, something that I've enjoyed. I mean, when you get stuck, you just have to go to the Discord server, put it in the health channel, and then you can, in the help channel, and then you can be able to get your problem solved. So these are the basic commands for setting up a simple Reflex app, and I think we can go ahead and do that. So I'm going to get started by opening my terminal. I'm on Ubuntu, but feel free to use any other operating system of your choice. I'm going to create a folder with mkdir, so make directory. I actually said mdkir, which is not supposed to be that. So it's supposed to be mkdir, and I'm going to just call this, let's just say simple CRUD. This is going to be a simple CRUD app, and it's going to be a full stack simple CRUD app. So guys, please tell me if something is going on, if let's say I'm buffering, or if you can't hear me well, please give me some feedback in the chat. I see right here Alexander is saying he's with me. I appreciate that. Alexander, is it only for me that the video is not clear? Sure. Is the video not clear? I guess I'll have to check myself out right here. Guess it's your network. It's perfectly clear from here. Okay, thank you. It seems like I am all right. Yeah, I think the internet works well. Okay, Alexander and Michael, I hope you enjoy this video. So we've created a simple folder right here, and this folder is an empty folder, so there is nothing in here. What I'm going to do is to open up VS Code, but feel free to use the text editor of your choice. And in this folder, we're going to go ahead and create a simple Reflex project. So Reflex is basically a framework that helps you to build full stack, but using Python. I think I've said that for like the 10th time right now, but yeah, this wasn't planned. I'm being watched by 6 people. Can you kindly at least leave me a like? It helps the channel and stuff. Yeah. Okay, I guess I'll have to just close this chat, this live for now. And Now let's get to building. So right here in my VS Code, I have an empty folder I've opened. I've gone ahead and opened it up in this VS Code window. So to get started, we shall create a virtual environment. Now I don't know how you guys create your virtual environments, but I have for many times stuck to the old Venv. I tried out pipenv, I tried out poetry, but I thought there are some complexities that these tools bring that I'm not able to deal with mostly. So to create a virtual environment, I usually use venv, which is the virtual env command. Hi Siesto Elemental, love from Uganda. Hi Martin Romario, I love you guys. Thank you for joining the live stream. We're going to be coding out a very simple CRUD app. But it's going to be full stack, front end, back end. We're not going to touch any line of JavaScript, I promise. So I'm going to go ahead and basically create a virtual environment with Python 3 -m venv and env. And when I do that, virtual environment will be created. Now, you can feel free to tell me where I'm from. I mean, this is not planned. I just decided to get on, talk to you guys while also testing the Wi-Fi I've installed at my home. Okay, so I'm going to source env being activate. And in this case, the virtual environment is going to be activated. Now I'm using Python 3.10.12, which is like the Python that's installed on my Ubuntu machine right here. Now let me make these things a little bit bigger so that you guys can see. And what I'm going to do is to go ahead and install Reflex. So we have the commands right here on the Reflex website. All we need to do is to start by installing Reflex with pip install Reflex. And then I'll go ahead and paste this in. So as it is installing, kindly tell me where you guys are from. I mean, this is unplanned. This is not something I had in plan, but I decided to go ahead and create a video about something that I'm using every day for work. Hey, how do I upskill in Django? I get the basics, but I don't know how to make something like a SaaS product. Well, upskilling is something that is subjective. Everyone has their own way of upskilling. Well, for me, I won't say I am that good of a programmer, but one of the things that helped me learn something or get confidence that I can build something using a certain technology is repetition. So I'll start with the simplest app idea in my mind and then try to build it out. And when I build it out and I try to tackle another problem, using that specific framework that I want to get good at. So these frameworks are tools, and tools can be used for different things. So you may find yourself having to build a project in Django, but tackling a small problem. So you may also find yourself building a project in Django, but you may be tackling something big or trying to do something that is way more complex than you've ever dealt with. So I highly recommend that you at least challenge yourself to go into projects that are paid, because that's where most of the requirements are vague, and I think that's where you get to learn most from. I mean, when you work on projects that are paid, there are a lot of vague requirements, things to solve, errors to get into, bugs to fix, and all that. So that's the way you get to upskill in any framework. All right, so Reflex has installed. Now let's go ahead and set up a simple Reflex project. Now, whenever you have Reflex installed, you get access to the Reflex CLI, and this Reflex CLI is all that can help you to manage a Reflex project. Yeah, love from India, Siesto, Elemental. I love you guys. You're the ones who watch my videos the most. Unfortunately, the people from my country don't watch my videos as much as the people from India. But I love Indians. I actually recently made a video where I was reacting to a video from a brother from India. Sid, the IT guy, I love you so much. You spoke the truth. I liked that video. In fact, I've never uploaded a video that got so many views like that one in 2 days or in a week. That's a lot. So I'm really thankful that he made that video. It's something that's necessary. We all need to wake up to the reality of software engineering and stop blindly listening to people like me. People who are giving you our opinions. Anyway, so we get access to this reflex command right here, and with this we can go ahead and do quite a lot of things. So if we do reflex help, then we can, oh, how did I type that? Let me go ahead and just write reflex help. So this is going to be reflex help, and now we can go ahead and see the various help commands that Reflex brings. Seems like my computer is lagging somehow, but yeah, we can see the commands that it's returning. So we can see Reflex components. This can help us to create our own custom components because it's based off React, and React works in a way that most of the UI is built in components. These components can be something as small as a button and something as big as an entire page. So Reflex also helps us to build a UI by using this concept of components. Sorry for that. So I am from Uganda, but I'm working in Nairobi at the moment. Wow. Oh, okay. Yeah. That's my fellow Ugandan right there. Yeah. So I'm also seeing, yes, influencers are very manipulative here because engineering is very lucrative. Yeah, that's the truth. Like, when listening to people like me, you have to keep in mind that you are taking in opinions, you're not taking in facts. So we've seen the component command, the DB command. So this is what helps you manage your database and basically also run migrations. It's something that works with Alembic behind the scene, just like we're going to see. And it also has the demo. So this runs the demo app. Deploy helps you to deploy to the Reflex hosting environment. Deployments helps you to manage your deployments. Export just helps you to export the app to a zip file. Init initializes a new project. In fact, that's what we're going to run. Login authenticates with a Reflex hosting service. So Reflex run, the command that helps us run the project, and the Reflex script that subcommands running the helper scripts. So now that we've gone through what this brings, the Reflex CLI, let us try to create a new project or initialize a new project. I'm going to start by saying Reflex init, and that will go ahead and create a new Reflex project within our simple folder or our simple virtual environment. Now what we're going to see right here is initializing simple CRUD, and yeah, we now have this. I don't know how many people are watching because I closed the live. All I can see is the chat. But one thing you can do for me is to click that like button. It helps. You guys don't know how much YouTubers sacrifice to put themselves in front of cameras. We sacrifice a lot. We make fun of ourselves. We make a lot of mistakes. And by doing so, we get to teach you guys. So a like is free. It's something that you can give to your favorite streamer or your favorite YouTuber or your favorite, you know what I mean. So yeah, I see 9 people are watching. I don't want to keep this open, so I'll close it. I have the chat right here. So let's go ahead and build. We're still initializing this. This is taking quite a while. And meanwhile, I only have Michael, Alexander, and Siesto and Martin who are active in my chat. Hey guys, you're 9. Why don't you say a hi in the chat? I like to talk to you. I like to interact with you. Kindly leave a chat. So we are still initializing our project right here. It's taking long. I don't know why, but yeah, that's the way it is. Meanwhile, I've also got to work on some Django projects on the side, and I will be honest, Django is a framework that has a lot to it and has a lot of problems it solves, and such problems may be different for every time you build with Django. So that's my experience with Django. All right, so now we see that the Reflex CLI is prompting us to enter the template that we would want to use to set up our project. Now remember how I said that this is based on React and Next.js. basically what it does is to compile all the Python code you've written into a Next.js application, just like we're going to see. But for us to get started, we have to first of all create a project, and there are very many project templates, such as the blank template, the dashboard. So that one comes with a dashboard with tables and graphs. The chart, basically, if you're creating a ChatGPT clone-ish kind of app, the one that comes with a sidebar in case you want to create a sidebar navigation to navigate to other pages. So I'm going to begin by creating a minimal template, and that's going to create a directory, and that directory is going to be called simple crud. Now let's go ahead and explore what is in here. The first folder here is the PyCache. Of course, you know what PyCache is, just a bunch of bytecode and a lot of binary blah 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 files that we don't need to know much about. But this folder right here is called a web folder, and this web folder is where the Next.js code is. It's where the UI of the application is. It's where most of the JavaScript, most of the UI stuff is compiled. And you'll notice that this is a project of a Next.js kind of app. We have where you put your components, the public folder where you put your public assets styles, where you put your CSS styles, utils in case you have any util functions and stuff. Git ignore to basically put things that you don't want to add to your Git repo. JSconfig.json, Next.js. So most of these things are specific to Reflex and Next.js. But the most important folder right here is going to be the simple crud folder, and this is where you're going to build your entire app. But before we look at that, we have the assets folder, and this is where all assets like images, like styles, anything that you may want to expose out there, this is where you're going to be putting it right here. And yeah, so you have a git ignore already added for you with stuff that is to be ignored, not to be added to the Git repository. I will have the requirements for txt file that has the version of Reflex that you're using. I will have the rxconfig.py, which is the very, very important file that is where all the configurations are done. I have another message here. So here Michael is asking, actually mean to ask if you will recommend Reflex over Flate. I have tried Flate a couple of times, but speed really is a thing with it. Well, to be honest with you, Michael, the truth is most of the times if you're considering to use Python for anything, let's say building web or building mobile, then you are going to have performance issues because you're not building with what is meant to build that specific thing. I've also had some performance issues with Reflex, but I think these are issues that you cannot land in case your computers are, let's say, strong. In case you have a machine that has a lot of RAM, I think these are things that you cannot really pay attention to, because I've been building a very big web app, but I've been building it with Reflex. But I think if I run that specific app on a machine that performs less, then I think we would have some issues. All right, so Tech Cosma has joined. Thank you, Cosma, for the message. How are you doing? I hope you're doing well. So rxconfig.py, this is where the configurations take place, and we're going to look at them in a minute. So let's go within a most important folder here, which is called simple crud. In this folder, we have an init.py, which is to just label this as a Python package. We also have simple crud.py, which is the main application. So if we went ahead and ran our app, this is what we're going to see as our web application. But before we go ahead and try to run this app, let us first of all understand what is going on here. We are having the config class. Basically, this is coming from our rxconfig.py, basically all the configurations for our Reflex app. And after importing it, you also import Reflex as Reflex, basically getting everything that's present within the Reflex framework. And then we create the docs URL, we create the file name, and we go ahead and create a state class. Now, this is very important, and we're going to look at how we can be able to do it. We also go ahead and okay. So, but will you recommend Reflex for web app over Reflate? honestly speaking, I do not think I can recommend Flat because I have not used Flat for building web apps. And I honestly don't think I can. I've used Reflex, so that's something that I am kind of familiar with. And if I am to say I'll choose Flat or Reflex or make a comparison, then I will be lying because I've not used Flat that much. I maybe tried to explore it once when I was trying to build a simple desktop app with it, but I didn't even have that much time to experiment with it. But I think Flat is great, and I think Flat can be used to build apps that are performing since it's based on Flutter. So tell me what you think about Flat, Michael. So okay, let's get back to what we're doing here. So there we define a simple reflex component is by defining a function. Basically, we're using a lot of type hints. We define that's going to return a reflex component. So the component class is where all these components that we build with reflex come from. It's where the subclass, it's where they get all their properties, and it's where they are children. So by creating a function, you go ahead and define all the UI stuff that's going to be present within that function. Now, one thing I want you guys to notice is Reflex almost has all HTML elements, but they are components, so they are not specifically HTML elements like we know them. So for example, if we wanted to make a heading, we just create a heading just like you see right here. But to distinguish whether it's a heading of h1 h2, then we'll just have to define its size. So meaning this is not an HTML heading, it is actually a reflex component. All right, so we also have a paragraph, which is rx.text. So the text function right here, all these are functions, all these are components, but they are being called as functions. So you can go ahead and define the component, provide props. So all these are props. If you've done React, you understand this concept of components and props. So what props are just attributes that a specific component is going to have. Now each reflex component is going to have the children and also other properties. Now some of those may be similar to what we have as normal CSS styles and so on, and other HTML attributes. So right here we have a simple heading, we have a simple paragraph, we have a button that says check our docs. So I think this just redirects you to this specific URL right here for introduction. And then we have the RX logo, and then you see things like align center. So this is where the styling comes in, spacing 7, font size 2em, height 100 VH. So you can go ahead and pass some of these properties as props to a component to just influence how it's going to be styled. Now the most important thing is here, what we have is we define a component, which is the index right here, but this can be an entire page, and then we can go ahead and add that to our app by using the add page function or method. So what we do is to create an app instance by calling rx.app, or creating an instance of our app class, and then after creating that app, then we go ahead and add a page to that app. That page should be a component, and when we return that, then that will be just enough for us to render a web app within our web browser. So to run our server or to run our web app, we have to just come right here in the terminal and say reflex run, and this will be just enough for us to go ahead and try to build this web app. So what this command will do at the first time is to go ahead and compile the web app, install all front-end packages that are required to run the app, and then go ahead and try to run this app in the web browser. So let us wait while this is happening. Now I'm going to pull up my web browser right here. Want to see how many people are live. Okay, so now we see that our web app right here is running at localhost 3000, and our packages have been installed successfully. Okay, how many people are watching? 5 people are watching. All right, let's go on. So I'm going to go ahead and open this app in the browser. Okay, so Martin Romario here is saying that I use Python frameworks to build APIs, but for front end, I always stick with JavaScript frameworks. Of course, you have all the reasons in the world if you can use JavaScript to build web apps, because JavaScript is something native to the web. But the beauty about tools like Reflex is the ability for them to help you build your UI without having to write any JavaScript. Now, this may not be the thing that's widely used out there. It's not something that is really popular out there in the real world, but it's something that can be helpful to data scientists and people who want to ship web apps, but they do not have they do not have that much experience writing JavaScript. So me coming from a Python world and knowing little JavaScript or not having that much experience building these web apps, I actually found this very interesting. So our URL is opened up on localhost 3000. So what I'm going to do is to control click and it will open up our web app right here in the browser. Now you guys can hear the dog bark out there. I don't know why it's taking its time to initially loads. So those are some of the performance issues that we have. All right, so now we have built our first web app. We cannot clap for ourselves because this is something that has been built for us and has been compiled for us by Reflex. So what we have is our index page right here, and we can do quite a lot of customizations to it. We see that we have this panel right here that comes with an accent color, a gray color appearance. So we can choose to use a dark theme, we can use a light theme, we can have border radiuses, we can have things like scaling, and yeah, basically some customizations and themes. So once set up our app, we can just choose an accent color, let's say blue, and then we can have we're going to keep it light, or we can even choose to go dark, but let's keep it light. We can have a border radius, we can also have scaling, let's just keep it to that. You can have a panel background solid. I don't think we need this, but we can copy this theme, and then after doing that, I guess I'll just have to delete whatever we have here so that we can build our app with our own hands. So to do that, what I'm going to do is to go right in here, and I'm going to start by getting rid of most of the things that we have. So I'm going to remove what we have there, and then I'll come in here and just leave the page blank so that we just have, so this is rx.center, which is going to center everything, but I'm going to keep it to a box or a div, and they have a specific component that is called a box component. Now this box component is the Radix box component. If you don't know what Radix is a UI component library that helps you build designs and helps you, something like Bootstrap or Chakra UI. If you go and search for Radix, you'll see what Radix is. Radix UI, it's just a component library for React that helps you to build these nice looking sort of components for your web application. Okay, so we now have our index page. So it seems our server has stopped working. So the way this server works with the client is through WebSockets. Whenever you perform an action by saving, a WebSocket action is going to be triggered that is going to make an action in the front end. So what it will do is to go ahead and just trigger the server to compile the Python you've written into JavaScript, and then the page will reload with the changes we've done. So we've done a change on our side of the server side, and we see that the front end is saying that it cannot connect to the server, and we see that it's trying to help make us to ping localhost 8000/event, which is based on the WebSocket protocol, just like you see right here. So what we need to do in such a case is to go ahead and restart our server. So when you have errors on the server side, Reflex will not be able to go ahead and listen to the client. So if you go to, let's say, our console, we shall notice that we have errors. And those errors are mostly coming from the fact that the server is not going to be able to communicate with the client. So we see that WebSocket connection to whatever URL failed because the WebSocket is closed before the connection is established. So by having an error on the server side, you expect that you're going to have an error on the front end. And I think this is how Fleet works also. I think it's also based on WebSocket. Now, Michael, you're asking me, you can go ahead and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think also it's similar to how this works. So I'm going to close the console and then I'll go ahead and restart the server. I'm going to press Ctrl C to stop this and then I'll rerun our app. So they are saying file name is not defined. Now, where are we using file name? Oh, I haven't saved, so I need to first save and then go ahead and run the server. Now, throughout this video, since it's not planned, I'm going to go ahead and also open up the docs so that we can pinpoint the various important things when building a web app with Reflex. So I'll open up the docs, reflex.dev. And here we are. So I'm going to go to the docs section and then we shall build a simple CRUD app using this so that we explore how it works. Now, what I'll have to do is to go ahead and split the project directory, which is here, into different things. Now I'm going to create the API side of the app and call it the API. Now I'm also going to go ahead and create the, let me just call this the client part. Now inside the client part is where we're going to have most of our UI specific stuff like the state, the components, and so on. And inside the API is where we're going to write the first API code for creating our simple server. So, but we already have the server, and in fact it actually even runs now. If we go to, let's say, localhost 8000, we shall notice that we have this response right here, which is showing us that our REST API is running in the background. So all we need to do is to go ahead and implement routes and then go ahead and just bind these routes to our front-end app. How many people are watching now? I don't know. I just want to see how many people are watching. Then we continue. I guess I'll have to keep it this side so that you guys are not disorganized. Okay. So let us go ahead and try to look into the documentation. So Reflex is an open source framework for quickly building beautiful interactive web applications in pure Python, easy to learn, pure Python, full flexibility, batteries included. Yeah. So here is an example that starts with state. So basically what we have here is a button that can decrement and also increment. And what happens here is all this is happening in the state. So Reflex allows you to keep state. So if you're not so familiar with the front-end programming world, state is any kind of data that may be present in the application. But that data is something that can update anywhere within the application. And basically, this has to be the same throughout the application. Let me give you an example that is very simple. Picture a scenario in which you have, let's say, the user's username, right? That user's username should be the same in the entire app. And whenever you go ahead and update this username, it should display the same, even if the app is kind of opened up in a separate tab. Now that is what state is. State is data that is to be distributed within the app, but should be similar throughout the app. So think of state management as having a database of values that have to be the same in the same web application. I think you get it. So here what we have is a state class, and this state class has a state of count. So this is how you basically create some state value or state variable. You go ahead and create an attribute to the state class, and then you give it a type hint. So in this case, you've annotated it to an integer. You can also go ahead and give it an initial state, and the way you do that is by providing the default value. So in this case, we are saying that this is an integer and it is 0. Then if you want to perform some actions on that state, all you have to do is to define a function, and that function will go ahead and just perform whatever action you want to perform on that state. So in this case, what we are seeing is self.count incremented, and that will go ahead and increment the count. Decrement the count. And whenever we have these components also have event handlers. So just like this button has the on-click handler, now the on-click handler will refer to the specific action that you perform in your state, and then you'll be able to perform an action on the state. For example, if we went ahead and also created something like that, we may have our state right here, and this state is going to be something like, let's say, a to-do. So a to-do is going to be a string, and we're going to initialize this to a blank value. So we may create something like, let's say, a button, and this button is going to be rx.button. Now for more about these components, you're going to go inside the Reflex documentation. So in this case, you can just say press me, and in this case, what we want to do is to go ahead and say press me. So what we're going to do is that at the top of this button, we are going to have, let's say, rx.text, which is going to be a paragraph, and this paragraph is going to have the state value for our specific text or for our specific value. So in this case, what we're going to do is to have, let's say, state dot to do, and that's what we're going to have in here. So if I save, what you'll notice is that this server is going to compile, and after compiling, we shall get the changes within our UI. But I want you to see how this actually works. So we have a button of press me, and we are seeing the hydration failed because the initial UI does not match what was rendered on the server. And this is something that's like Next.js. Even you see how this loads like how you work with Next.js. So this button currently doesn't do anything. We can just press it and it won't have to do anything. But you can make things a little bit interesting by going ahead and defining a function. So I'll say def, and this function will be, let's say, a handle press. Now, after handling press, we shall say that this takes himself, and right after doing that, what we want to do is to go ahead and set our to do to the new value, which is you pressed the button, and this is how you simply do it. So what we have to do to call this event handler is to just call an event of clicking. So we just have to just say on click, and in this case, it will go ahead and call that state handler function. So in this case, we shall say state dot handle press, or whatever we called it, and this is going to be just enough to help us modify our state. So I'm going to save, and that server is going to compile the UI again. So when you go back to our UI right here, hoping that everything is running, if we press, oh, it's our server running, things are still compiling. So I have seen Get It Wizard is saying thoughts about Flask. Well, I will be honest, Flask is still around. Flask is being used out there, and do not be fooled into thinking that Flask is dead. Much as Flask may not play the game of modern web frameworks the way we expect it to, I don't think Flask is going anywhere. There are very many applications that are running on Flask, and as long as that is, then there may be use for Flask. Though now it's popular to learn things like Fast API, which is a very good, nice framework. Django is also shifting to the async side, and so on. And also Flask is trying to catch up. But yeah, Flask is being used out there. I got my first job coding Flask, so I can say Flask is being used out there. All right. So let's go ahead and try to see. When you go to our UI right here, when you press, we see that you press the button, meaning that our state has been able to change to something because of an action you performed by clicking this button. Now, if we want to do something more interesting, we can, let's go ahead and create an array of, let's say, a list of to-dos. So I'm just going to say these are going to be to-dos, and to-dos is going to be a list, but this list is going to be of strings. Now, to type hint this, I'm going to go ahead and give it the right type annotation of list. So to do that, I'm going to say from typing import list. And once I've been able to do that, then I'm going to go ahead and say list. And in this case, I'll specify this is going to be a list of strings, and we can initialize it to a list that is empty or a list that has values that we may want. So to add on, please feel free to use whatever you use. I personally recommend Flask every time I'm asked which framework is the best for starting out building web with Python. I think the fact that I started with Flask gave me a very nice basis to learn backend web development with Python, and it has helped me to also be able to use things like Django, because it introduces you to quite a lot of concepts that you may not be able to grasp if you're to jump into a batteries included kind of framework at the first time. So those are my thoughts on Flask. Let's go on. All right, so we have a to-dos list right here. Now we can populate something in here. We can say something like, let's say, what can we do? So in this case, we can let's say leave it as an empty to-do. And once we've left this as an empty to-do, now let's do something that's interesting. And what we're going to do is to go ahead and loop through all the items that may exist within our to-dos list, and then try to render each of them as text within our UI. So the way we're going to do that is by using the rx for each method. Now, keep in mind that this video is not scripted at all, therefore I may knock myself on the wall trying to land into errors and solving them. But what you're going to do is to go ahead and just say that in here we're going to have a to-do, but we want to go ahead and loop through the list of to-dos. Now this is where state is important. What you're going to do is to say rx for each, and what this is going to do is to help us be able to render UI for a list. Now, when we have a list, the first thing we have to do is to provide what we want to render within the list. So in this case, we have a list of to-dos, and that is going to be our list. So I'm going to go ahead and say we're going to have a state dot to-dos. And once we have that, then the next thing is going to be our render function. So the render function is what is going to go ahead and help us with rendering an individual item for the items that we have within our list of items. Now in this case, what we want to render is this specific text component, but inside it we want to render state for an individual to do within our to-dos list that we've defined in our state right here. So for us to do that, what we're going to do is to go ahead. Swen Tech, thanks for this session. Yes, you are live. Yes, I'm live. Kindly tell me where you are. I'd like to know. I hope you're liking this video. All right, so what we're going to do is to go ahead and define how we're going to render these text components based on what we have in our state for to-dos. So to do that, what I'm going to do is to define a simple lambda function, which is an anonymous function. But what this anonymous function is going to do is to just return a text component with a specific to-do in our to-dos list. So let's go ahead and look at how that works. So inside here, I'm going to go ahead and say lambda, whatever you call it, I call it lambda. And in this case, we shall have an item, or let me just call it a to-do. And what we're going to do is to go ahead and return a text component. And I have a spelling mistake right here, forgive me guys. And this is going to be lambda. And then we shall say that this is going to take in a to-do list as a parameter, and then it will return the text as one that contains a to-do. So what this is going to do is to simply loop through our state of to-dos, and when that happens, we shall now go ahead and simply add that to-do within the text component and then render it. Now, nothing will be shown on our server. We're actually having our UI compiling right here. So if we go back right here, there's absolutely nothing that is being shown because there is no specific action that we are performing. All we do is to press the button and set state, of which we have also got rid of. So now what we want to do is to go ahead and basically have, so let me actually show you how this works. So if you had, let's say some state, like let's say hello, and then hello, and then comma, let's say world. Of course, this will render this list. If we went right here, we shall notice that we shall have a list of paragraphs, not a list of paragraphs, but 2 paragraphs rendered for each of the items that we have within our state of, oh, Swain from Morocco. How is Morocco? Love from Uganda. Yeah. Thanks for watching. I've seen your comments on many of my videos, and I really appreciate that. I mean, having people who watch your content and love your content, I appreciate what you guys do. It's the reason as to why I create these videos. I'll tell you a story. This project of my YouTube channel started as something that I was doing for a hobby. In fact, I was doing it at the time where I didn't have where to sleep at university. So I was in a lecture room one day and I decided to go ahead and create the YouTube channel. And on that YouTube channel, I thought I could at least share some of the stuff I was learning and try to teach someone, try to inspire someone, and to honestly be in this situation where this YouTube channel is almost hitting 1 million views is something that I never thought would happen in the first place, and almost hitting 10,000 subscribers. So if you're watching this, please, you can consider hitting the subscribe button if you haven't done so, because I think I want to get to 10,000 subscribers. Yeah, that is a humble request from me. All right, so we've compiled our UI. When you go right here, we just have the 2 sentences that we have, hello and world. Notice how easy this is. You do not have to have any prior knowledge of React. You just have to know Python and how to play the game of Python for you to build a web app. Now what I'm doing here is something simple, but you can do very many interesting things. Now I think I'll create an in-depth video where we build a very big web app using this framework, and you'll kind of get to appreciate how it works. But for now, all I can do is to just demonstrate how something works, how this works, by putting together a simple app. All right, so now that we have these to-dos being rendered from our list of to-dos, the one that we have right here, we can also go ahead and create an input. Now this input is one that's going to allow us to add these to-dos. So to do that, what I'm going to do is to go ahead right here. So I'm going to group this button. I'm going to create a box. Now think of a box as a div in normal HTML, but think of this as Redux components. So what I'll do is to go ahead and copy our button or cut it and then paste it within our box. And just in here, we are going to go ahead and set up the input that is going to be submitting to our simple CRUD app or our simple state to-dos list. So what I'm going to do is to just come right here. So I'm going to create a text component, and I'll simply say that this is going to be a label. Or to prevent that, what I can do is to just render the input. Now I can just come and say rx.input and I'm coming. So what we can do is to go ahead and render this as rx.input, and rx.input, this is going to be a text field. We can go ahead and add the normal props or attributes that belong to an input, things like the type of the input. Now I want this to be a text input. We can add things like max length, we can add things like a placeholder, and in this case we can say that our placeholder is going to be let's say enter to do item. So once we have that, if we save, our UI is going to compile again. Now depending on which machine you're using, the speed of the compilation step is going to always depend on how strong your machine is. So if mine is taking time, I have quite a lot of things running on this 16 GB computer, so you don't expect it to be that fast. So I hope the compilation is done, the UI is reloading, and here we have enter to do item. So we can make this a little bit interesting by simply styling it up, and I'm going to be demonstrating how to do that. So to begin, what we're going to do is to wrap this entire box, or basically style it into a container, and this container is going to have some styling so that it looks appealing, so that it just doesn't look the way it does right now. So to do that, I'm going to just come right here, and the way we add styles to in Reflex is by simply using the style prop that exists on most, actually all UI components. So by providing the style prop, you go ahead and define a dictionary that has those styles. Now these are normal CSS styles, but the difference is we write them as normal CSS styles, but when we write them as normal CSS styles, just like you see right here, we can also try to write them in the normal Pythonic way by using the snake case, but this also doesn't hurt. However, if you want errors in your console, you'll get to see that React is going to tell you that it doesn't accept styles in kebab case. So actually Reflex is the one that doesn't accept styles in kebab case, so it accepts them in snake case, which is basically, if you had a property such as the flex direction, you'll have to just say flex underscore direction, and then to go ahead and do something of the sort. So let's go ahead and style the container, or the one in which all these files are, or the one in which all these components are. You forgive me guys, I'm a bit tired. This video is unscripted. I'm just testing out my home internet. So right in here, I'm going to come right here, and what I'll do is to just add a style, and I'll say that this entire page is going to have a mean height. So I'm just going to come and write mean height, and I'm going to give it a mean height of, let's say, 100 view heights. Now notice that all of these are going to be written as string, key, and string variable. There are some properties that may require numbers, and it may be okay to add them as numbers, but it's mostly safe for you to add these styles by using quotes. So in this case, if I were to write mean height, I'm going to write it as mean height, and then write the value as 100 view heights, but this is going to be in quotes, just like you see right here. So once I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and set. So I've set the mean height, and I'm also going to go ahead and make everything centered. So I'll just say that we're going to have this fill width of, let's say, 80% of our screen. This is basic CSS, and I'm not a pro at it. And we are also going to set the margin to, let's say, 100 pixels. So that's going to be top bottom 100 pixels, and then auto for left and right. So it's going to go ahead and center it. So if I go ahead and close the quotes, save, we don't have any errors right here. So this is going to do is go ahead and compile our UI and re-render it. So hi everyone, hi everyone, hi everyone. I'm having 5 people. Wow, 5 people have watched me from the start. I appreciate, guys. Thank you for holding on. Tell me what you think about this specific moment in the live stream. Okay, so what you're going to do is to go ahead and when you look at our UI right here, everything is now centered. I think this is big, so I guess I'll have to make it a little bit smaller. Yeah, so this is our simple web app. These are just simple to do items, and you just have a simple input right here where you go ahead and add it to do, and then when you press, you want to be able to go ahead and add it to our simple list of to-dos. How complicated is that? It's not complicated, just like we're going to see. All right, so let's go ahead and do this. So what I'm going to do is to go ahead and bind this to state, or basically go ahead and make sure it has a certain state value. Now keep in mind that we have our state of to do, and what this is basically the initial state of our to do. What we want to do is to bind the state of this to do to our input right here, so that the moment we enter in text, we go ahead and set our state to that to do. So the way we're going to do that is to go right here, and we shall just say that this is going to have a value, and the value of this is going to be our state dot to do. So I'm going to say this is going to have a value of state dot to do, and what we need to do is to go ahead and also say on change, the value that we're going to have here is going to be setting whatever we have for the state of to do. Now let me explain. So what we want to do is to go ahead that every time we input something in this input, we are changing the default value of our to do. I think this kind of makes a lot of sense. Now keep in mind that this is an unscripted video. It's a video that I just made to be live for the sake of it, so don't expect that much, but I promise to make a video where I'm going to be giving an in-depth tutorial and a well-explained tutorial to Reflex, and I hope by that time you'll have considered checking it out. So right here, I'm going to go ahead and simply set the to-do, and I think I'm going to wrap this in a form that when we submit, goes ahead and adds that simple to-do to our list. So to do that, I'm going to come and then also make use of another component, which is the form component. So we shall say rx.form, and in that we shall have this simple components right here. And I have black installed, so every time I press Ctrl and F, it just automatically formats my code, and that is just interesting. Okay. Wow, I have got some money here. This is this is interesting. Thank you, Romario. I really appreciate what you've done for me. I honestly do not deserve this, but thank you. Thank you. Let me actually see how much that is in Ugandan shillings right here. You've contributed to my internet bill. I thank you so much. So if I were to go to Kenyan shillings, let me just go to Kenyan shillings to Ugandan shillings, and I'm doing that on a separate tab. I don't want the haters to be envious. Wow, that's actually some money. That's a good contribution to my internet bill. Thank you so much. I appreciate what you've done. May you fill your pockets with more. Let's continue. All right, so going on, we shall basically wrap this within a form component, but this form component is going to be one that we shall add an event to, and that event is going to be the submit event. Now when you go ahead and add the submit event, what that event is going to do is to help us listen to the submitting of this form, and to go ahead and perform an action such as sending that to do to our to-do list. So to do that, I'm just simply going to come right here and say on submit, and this is going to be equal to something that's going to add a certain to-do list to a certain to-do item to our to-do list. So in here, what I'm going to do is to come right here and say on submit. So we're going to define a state handler for that. So what I'm going to do is to handle the submit, or let's say I'm just simply going to call this create to do. And once I've called that create to do, all I want to do is to go ahead and add a to do to our list. So in this case, we now will have a value for our to do, and all we have to do is to append that to our specific to-dos list. So I'm having AI code for me right here, and all it's doing is to go ahead and say that when we have our to-dos list, we have to just append our to-do. Let us try that out. I'm not that kind of guy who refuses to work with AI if AI is around. Much as I do not fall for the hype of AI, I feel like all of us should be open to the use of AI because it is just nice to work with. I mean, look at this. Look at me having these code suggestions right here. Something that I have to think about, but AI is going ahead and recommending it, and all I have to do is to test it, see if it works, and then move on with my life. If it works, good. If it doesn't work, then at least AI has given me a basis on which I can have to go ahead and simply write the code and solve the problem at hand. Okay, so let us go ahead and finish this. So we go ahead and add the to do to our to-dos list. And why is this adding the to-do? This is adding the to-do because at this point we've bound the state onto our input. Whatever we input into the input is going to be that specific state of our to-do. And when you press the button, we want to be able to add that onto our to-do list, making sure that this right here is going to instead render an item or items as they come from our to-dos, including what we've added onto our to-do list right here. So okay, let's go ahead and listen to that submit. So we've created our handler right here. We're just going to go ahead and add it to our listener. We shall just say on submit, we shall just say create to do. Now once we've been able to do that, then this is actually on the state, so we have to say state dot to do or dot create to do, and that will be getting rid of that undefined error. So once we've been able to do that, then we'll also have to mark this as a button for submitting data. So for us to be able to do that, we shall just come right here and say that this is going to be of type submit. And okay, so once we've been able to do that, then let's try to test it out. So if I try to add something here, oh, seems like our stuff has not been able to recompile. Let me go ahead and see it. So we're seeing new packages added or new packages detected, updating app. So this is going to go ahead and update the app. Okay, so oh, type object state has no attribute handle press, and I think that is because of what we have here. Oh, I forgot to actually go ahead and remove this, because what this button is supposed to do is to simply go ahead and just fire the submission of our form. It's not going to go ahead and perform any action. So I'm going to go ahead and save. And then I'll restart the server. So I'll press Ctrl C, and then I'll refresh or restart the server, and that will go ahead and restart the server. I still have 5 people. Wow. I remember the first time I live streamed, I had 2 people watching, and then they left and they went, and yeah. So it turns out we have an error, and this is an error that is specific to submitting forms. So every time you're submitting a form with Reflex, you are going to need to handle the form data, and that's not something we've been able to do. So the error here is a value error, and what it's saying is number of arguments in state.create to do doesn't match the definition of the event trigger on submit. So every form has to have an event handler, but that handler has to have a specific sort of like argument, and that's going to be the data that's present within the form. Now let's look at the important way that Reflex kind of handles forms. So if we go right in our event handler right here, which is create to do, we shall just have to add a form data, form underscore data, nothing else. It's just form data. And what this form data is going to be sort of like a list, a dictionary of whatever we've put in our form. So if you go ahead and see, we can type in this to be a dictionary, and then we can try to also print it right here. So we can say print, and this is going to be form data. So forget the JavaScript console. Wherever you're debugging code that is written in Reflex, you're going to do it from our good old friend, the terminal. And that is something that is interesting, something that is not front-end-ish. So what I'll do is to run, and when I run, this time our app is going to run just like I said. Performance. Actually, there's that blog post I read that was addressing the fact that people think Python is a slow programming language and stuff. This guy was like, if you think Python is slow, buy a better machine, use better hardware, deploy on better servers. And I think he was somehow correct. I mean, how many of us think about the performance issues of Python? I don't think we do think about them. I don't think performance is something that we can go ahead and look at and think of as serious when dealing with Python, when they're using Python for. I think performance is something that is for nerds. Any person who is normal doesn't worry about performance. Maybe if you're building some app that is like the next TikTok or something, but if you're building your normal web app, I think Python is okay. Though I think the use of Python on the front end is still an experiment and is going to rely on JavaScript for such a long time. Okay, our app is running, so let's go back right here. If we try to do something, we're not doing anything, but you see that our dictionary right here is being printed. So this dictionary is empty and we do not have anything in it. But let's say we went ahead and added something in this input right here and we submitted. Of course, we're going to see that our to-do item is going to be added. But the most interesting thing is that our form data here should also be set to that to-do item, because in a case where you're submitting this data to the backend, you need to submit it as JSON, and this is the JSON you're going to be sending, this dictionary right here. So let's go ahead and look at how we can set that dictionary. So to set that dictionary, all we have to do is to go ahead and simply give the name attribute to each of our form inputs. So whenever you're creating a form input in Reflex or even in HTML, it's very important that you add the name attribute to your specific input. Now in this case, we are going to name our to do, and we're going to give it a name of, let's say, what should we call it? We're going to call this, let's say, our to do. Of course, let me just call it a to do. So in this case, if I save, our server is going to recompile our UI right here. And once it compiles it, then shall be good to go. We shall see our change. For people watching, 18 likes. I think we're doing well. This is actually getting better. This is getting better and better with time. And one thing about this YouTube channel is I honestly feel like if I do this for the longer term, I will be able to impact a lot of people. But I always feel like I should not be pressured to do it. And that is why I try to make it as fun as I can. And to be honest with you guys, I feel like you have responsibility if you have a group of people who watch you for content, who watch you to learn something. Someone told me that at one time he went for this job at a certain startup, and this friend of mine told me he was told to watch an entire playlist by me, by the people who are employing him. So it's not bragging, but I feel like there's so much responsibility that you have as a content creator, as a person who creates videos that can be watched on the internet. And that is good, but it's also bad. It puts so much pressure on you, and depending on how you are as an individual, that pressure can be dangerous or it can be good. For me, it's 50-50. I feel like the pressure can get too much, and I feel like I do not like creating YouTube. And then it gets to a point where I feel like doing YouTube for the sake of it. And by doing so, I've actually gone ahead to create some of the videos I'm proud of. Like all the SQL Alchemy videos I've done are non scripted. They're not scripted, less edited, and to be honest, they're the ones that have got a lot of views. So I feel like if I went ahead and created content like this, I think that's what will take this channel to the next level. Yeah, those are my random thoughts. But let's go on. So for now, we can add a to-do list item. If we add something, we can just go ahead and add it. It will be added to our list and rendered on our UI. Now think of the beauty of having to do this without having to write any line of JavaScript. This is where tools like Reflex come into the picture. This is what sold me the Reflex framework. This is why I feel like you should check out the Reflex framework. This is why I feel like you should take some time in your busy schedule and learn how to use a tool such as Reflex, because this is a game changer. This is something that if it gets there, is going to challenge front-end development as we know it. I mean, it gives you the ability to write an entire UI without having to deal with JavaScript. For me, that is what sold me this framework. Okay, yeah, I've talked a lot, and that is the purpose of creating this video. I just wanted to get online, chat, while also introducing some new technology to you. Now, I think I'm going to end this live stream here, and I apologize because I was planning on building this thing to a full application, but I am tired. I need to go and eat. I need to go and rest. So if you've liked this video, please leave a like. It doesn't hurt. It's not expensive. And yeah, so we can add a lot of things to this app, but I think I need to go and have something to eat. Now let me answer Humphrey Chinotti's question. Humphrey is saying he loves Fast API's performance. Of course, performance is one of those things that we all love, and I think Fast API as a framework is a framework for the future. It's something that came at a time where we needed it. It's something that we all love. It's something that is going to be here, and it's something that we're going to be using. I'm personally not that guy to bash any tool or technology. I used to do that when I was still young in programming. Of course, I'm not that old, but I feel like I've seen something because I've worked some jobs, I've worked on some projects and stuff, and I will say that Fast API is just a good framework to work with, and it's something that's going to stay here, revolutionize how we build web apps with Python. Okay, so what else can we do? We can make this a table. So I don't want to code this out, but I think I can search for a table right here and try to at least make this something that we can at least see. So we can get a table, and this table is going to be a table just like we see right here. So you can have filtered tables, but you can have tables, and all these are components that are built within the framework, but this all based on Redux UI. So, this is creating tables in the database. I didn't want to go this side. I wanted to go to that table component. So in here I can say table, and this is going to be a data display component, and we can simply come right here and get code for a table. So I'll copy this and I'll simply paste it right here now. Just like I said, when you add the name attribute, we set a key for a specific state value, and then we set the value for that specific input. So I'm going to be rendering all these to-do items in a table, and then we shall be rendering them as these text components. So what I'm going to do is to just come and put our table right here. And our table, since our table has only one column, it's going to be our to do. So I'll just make it more interesting by adding our to do. And in here, I'll just come right here and say that we shall also have, now these are rows and these are tables. So you just notice by how they call them, table row and then table cell, table row and then table cell. So this is table header, table body, just like in a normal HTML table, but these are more React components than HTML elements. So I'm just going to come here, remove this, and this is going to be our to do as the header, and then we shall have our body having the various to do. So in here is where we can maybe call our rx dot for each, and in each for each we shall go ahead and render our to do's. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're just going to come right here and say rx dot for each, and in this case we shall go ahead and provide our state. So here we shall have our state dot to do's, and we shall have our lambda returning a table row with a table column. So in this case, I think it's going to be table dot cell, and yeah, that will return our column with our specific to do. Now if we save, I think I have an error somewhere, and that error is here where we so what I want to do is to render the table, but also add a comma so that we also render the rest of the items. So I don't know where this is coming from, but I think adding the comma right here gets rid of the error. So I'm going to Control KF. So that's the black formatter that I have that simply puts and organizes my code. So what we have here is the table at the top, and then we also have, so I guess I have to get rid of what we have here. So we shall have a table at the top, and then we shall also have a form at the bottom for just creating a to do. Now this is just a syntax or a way to set the attribute here to something, just modifying or updating the state. So if you go right here, the UI is going to refresh. And now we're going to notice that this is going to render this simple table with these columns, just like we see them right here. And this looks a little bit nicer compared to what we had. So if we add another to do, let's say go to movies. In this case, if we press me to go ahead and add that. And if we go ahead and add another item, to just go ahead and add, so just like that, a moment. Okay. Yeah, let's finish up. So we have our simple CRUD app right here, and it just simply functions. But what you can do is to prevent ourselves from having to uh, submit empty stuff. So we need to refresh the page so that we can at least, so our list is still persistent. That's state for you. State is data that is persistent on the UI. Even if we refresh, that state is going to be the way it is, because what we have is this server that's still keeping that state of our application. So that's the beauty about Reflex. So what I'm going to do is to prevent the submission of an empty field by simply going on here and adding, let's say, required. In this case, we can just say required, and required is equal to true. We'll just add the required attribute to our HTML element. So if we go back to our UI right here, it's going to recompile. So in this case, we shall basically note that our data is going to be lost because it's going to restart the server. Just like you see, it's going to refresh and the page will refresh. And now we have our simple to-do list right here. So if we go ahead and add some items, it's going to add them, but we cannot submit an empty form because it's required. We can also make this more appealing by, let's say, adding some margin top to this button. So you can say margin top, and margin top is going to be equal to, let's say, so the beauty is you can just go ahead and add 10, and when you add 10, that will be like 10 pixels. If you add 15, that will be like 15 pixels. So if I refresh or if I save, what this will do is to move this button a little bit down to make it look more like it's not attached to the input. How many people are watching the live stream right now? Five people are watching the live stream right now. All right, the UI has loaded, and this is how we have our app. So if we go ahead and try to submit again, we can add, but this time if we don't add, we cannot be able to add. So let's finish this CRUD app. So let me handle the delete and maybe the update of the simple CRUD. Should I be able to do that? I feel like this is something I should do in a full video. I guess this will do it for now. But what we've done right here is to just introduce ourselves to the Reflex framework. And I've just gone ahead to just show you around what Reflex does, how it works, and I hope you've enjoyed this live stream. So I hope to make a very big video around the framework, helping you explore various things about this framework. But I think this framework has the potential to change how we build web apps with Python. And I just have fun using it and I enjoy building with it. So yeah, let's call it